My notebook. I don't go an inch without it. I've jotted down a few things about Debrecen while strolling aimlessly on the streets. There are a few shopping receipts here, too. Oh, I had more coffee yesterday than on a hard working day. Somehow I didn't enjoy solitude this time. Chocolate biscuits. For Vero. I hoped to take her out, but it didn't happen. It's partly my fault. I was to meet Paolo Galuzzi, the famous Da Vinci researcher, who arrived here to open the exhibition. I fixed the meeting with him for Sunday because I thought a young woman would love to go out Saturday. And so she would. But she had another engagement where I wasn't invited. So we had to forget about sightseeing together. Come on, I'm not going out in this negligee. Aha, the phone. It's time to switch it on. I expect Vero's call any minute about the water analysis. If all goes well, I'll be back in Eger to have lunch in Hotel Senator.
Hi. Is it about time?
Not at all. I've been expecting your call. What time should I come to see you?
Jonathan, can you come right now?
Well, yes, of course, but why is it so urgent? Is everything all right?
Something terrible happened. Bolage has disappeared.
Disappeared? What do you mean?
He's gone. God knows where. He left a farewell letter.
I see. Did he say where he was going?
No. That letter makes me so worried. It looks as if... How could he do such a thing?
Look, I've told you this before. Legally, he's an adult, and he's free to go against your will. I'm sure he'll turn up soon.
No, he won't. This letter suggests he's been obsessed with something he may have discovered.
Why? What does he write?
Would you please read it for yourself? You're the investigator.
An investigator? Only if it's about history.
You're the only one who can help me find my brother. The police won't do anything.
Have you spoken to them?
Yes, they won't start a search within 24 hours. And all they could do is kindly advise him to go home. It's ridiculous.
That's what I'm saying. He's an adult.
Okay, if you don't want to help me, and let that foolhardy brother of mine get involved in some foul play which might even cost his life, just say so. But if you feel just a little empathy...
Okay, don't exaggerate. I'm on my way. You'll tell me everything, all right?
Okay, hurry. I'm waiting for you.
See you soon.
See you.
Well, it seems I'm not going to lunch in Hotel Senator today. Like a bad dream. Maybe I should have brought the biscuits after all. Hi. Any news?
News? None. No sign of Bolage. But I don't expect any. Here's the letter. Read it for yourself.
Right. I think Vero has a good reason to be worried, after all. Well, this is self-explanatory.
What's self-explanatory?
That this was going to happen one day. Maybe he went after his girlfriend, to Germany.
I've thought of that too, but why today?
I know what upsets you. This sentence. I have discovered something, and if my suspicion is correct, you will be proud of me one day.
Yes.
This suggests that it wasn't only love that motivated him.
I've spoken to the girl. She doesn't know anything.
Or she won't tell you. Tell me about this Pani.
She's all right. I should have nothing against her. Only...
Only you're upset with her because she's out to get him, to influence him.
Maybe. But I don't think she was lying when she said she hadn't heard from him since yesterday. She said she'd call me immediately if he turns up.
Any idea what Balazs discovered?
No. But it's true that he was busy with something in the past weeks or so. Never looked bored. No endless Skype chats like before. And he was reading a lot, went to the library often, and searched the net all day.
What topics did he search? Atomkian physics, perhaps?
No idea, I'm afraid. Unless... I happened to see an old book he took from the library. It was titled Hungarian Mineralogy, or the Science of Minerals and Ores. A really old one, from 1791.
Strange. I wonder where he's got it from.
Sometimes he borrowed books from our scientists, but he often went to some library too.
Rather odd, by all means. What did Balazs take with him?
That's just it. Hardly anything. Only his small backpack is missing.
What about his passport?
It was in the backpack, so he took it. But as I said, it's expired.
Yes, and you also said he'd been incapable of having it extended. Okay, go on.
Then I don't find some books he's recently acquired. And his cell phone's gone too. And it's switched off, of course. I've tried to call him at least 50 times since this morning.
Any money?
He's got a bank card. Dad transfers money to him now and then. I don't know how much was on it, because I've been paying everything since he's been here with me.
Quite a handsome amount of money could be on that card, then. When did you last see your brother? Yesterday evening?
Yes, of course. He came home late, but we didn't talk much. And he wasn't there when I got up at 6:30 in the morning. Only that letter was on his bed.
Where was he Sunday evening?
Well, who knows? He said he was going to meet a teacher in the... Yes, in the Reformed College.
On Sunday? Oh, well, why not?
He'd been out in the morning, too, but didn't say where. And on Saturday we were at that party together. You remember I've told you about it?
Ha! The party you didn't want me to come with you. Don't you think you should tell me more about it now?
It's not so simple. But nothing to do with Balazs.
You tell me as much as you wish.
Okay. For me and my brother, this party was an obligation. Mr. Lehosky, the director, was invited, and he'd been coaxing me to go with him. First, I refused, as I had no intention to appear there as a mistress of the elderly director. But he asked me so kindly, so I said okay, if Balazs could come too.
I guess Balazs was not fond of the idea.
He wasn't. Actually, that's why he was in such a bad mood when you arrived on Friday.
I see. So eventually he went too.
Yes, but he behaved awfully. Stood aside all along, and then tried to annoy me, saying he was drunk. I felt like slapping him around. Meanwhile, Peter took me arm in arm and introduced me to people as the pride of our institute.
I assume you didn't stay long.
But we did. It was more relaxed towards the end. Even Balazs had a talk with the host and his doctor. And there was a middle-aged woman whom he had a few words with. And I also had the chance to chat with some people.
Where was the party held?
At the mansion of a stuck-up guy called Egon Palos. It's not far from Atomki. You should have seen that luxury.
What do you know about Palos?
Never met him before. A stout businessman smelling horribly of perfume. He's grown so fat because of selenium deficiency, so they say. Imagine, he announced at the party that this was his last birthday as he was going to die soon. It was a bizarre performance.
It must have been. And what does he do?
I'm not sure. He used to live in China for a long time, made his money there. Then he moved back when his disease was discovered, because he trusted European medicine better.
But the therapy doesn't seem to help, does it?
For some time now, he's turned to alternative medicine. His physician, some Droshkovich or something, stays there with him and gives him treatment every day. Could be just rumour, of course.
How are you getting along with the director of Otomki?
With Peter? Well, I really don't know.
Complicated?
Oh, no. There's nothing between us. He's over 60.
This doesn't mean a thing. Apparently, he's fond of you.
Yes, I do feel it. But I just look up to him, that's all.
And encourage him.
I don't mean to. He's like an uncle who takes care of me, and this is how I behave.
Yes, and not as a physicist of the Institute. Did Balazs get along well with your colleagues?
Certainly. Everyone liked him, although he'd been hanging around them a lot. Sometimes they call him Brainiac Boy, as Balazs likes to be clever without being asked. But everyone knows he's got superb brains. He loves exploring and discovering things.
It might be the case now.
Maybe I don't know him well enough, though. You should ask those people he knew well in the Institute. They might know something.
Good idea. But it won't be so easy.
It will be. I'm afraid I don't have the time to show you around, but I've already sent out a circular mail to let them know about your visit. They're ready to assist.
A remarkable providence. But where do I...
Here, this is a map of the Institute with laboratories. And if you get stuck, I'm always here to help.
Well, all right. Excuse me for being a bit down to earth, but is there any news about the water sample?
Oops, I almost forgot about it. The quick test didn't lead to a clear result, so they're trying another method now. It'll be ready today, so they promised.
Thank you. And don't worry, your brother will be found. This is what I can promise. I wonder if this girl knows something about Balazs. It would be a good idea to check where Balazs has been browsing recently, but Vero said Balazs was in the habit of deleting his browsing history, especially now, I suppose. Let's not bother her. I've got a... Like in a submarine, I swear. What a dangerous place this must be. You can only look through a thick glass. Yes, this guy must be Dr. Laszlo Kekashi. Good morning.
Good morning. What can I do for you?
Are you Dr. Kekashi?
In the flesh. And who are you?
Name's Jonathan Hunt. Have you received Miss Gall's letter?
I have no time for reading letters, Mr. Hunt. I'm on the clock. And when it's work time, I only have time for work. But tell me, what was in that letter?
Miss Gall's younger brother disappeared this morning.
Disappeared? You mean vanished under a spell?
I rather think he's just run off. He left a farewell letter, but his sister is terribly worried. She asked me to find him.
Asked you? Why? Are you a detective?
No, but I promised to help her. So she wrote to her colleagues asking them to assist with the investigation and answer my questions.
Well then, if that's the case, work time is suspended. Interrogation time starts, but please keep it short.
When did you last see Balazs?
He was here last week, and came to my house yesterday to return a book I had lent him.
So you lent him a book? May I ask what book it was?
A book on astronomy. What else? I only get visitors who want to know about the work or about the world of galaxies.
So he was interested in the world of galaxies.
Meteorites, to be precise.
That's curious. I don't think his sister knew about this.
He's a genuine teenager, you see. You are one, too. Young men have their secrets to hide.
Did he tell you about any secret of his?
Not much. But when he heard astronomy was my hobby, he asked about meteorites. But I'm not a good talker, you see, so I gave him books on asteroids, comets, and so on.
I see. Do you have any idea why he was interested in all these?
No idea. I couldn't even tell you why I myself was interested in it.
Mr. Kakashi, what are your impressions about Vero?
Pretty little chick. The apple of the director's eye. Respectful girl and a good expert. Her father and mother have a scientific reputation, so I assume the children have good brains too. Balazs is also a bright kid.
It's peculiar to see past and future side by side like this. The antique world, on a not-so-antique globe. All that glitters is not gold. Neat haircut and beard, untidy desk and chaotic instruments. The same contrast as in the lab itself. Good morning.
Ah, good morning. You must be Jonathan Hunt.
And you are Mr. Brown, if I'm not mistaken.
Dr. Ernu Brown, at your service.
Mr. Brown, what can you tell me about Balazs Gal, Vero's brother? When did you last see him?
I've heard he's disappeared. How awful. I really don't understand. I spoke to the boy on Friday. He seemed quite as usual. He stormed into my lab and started to browse through my bookshelf. Sometimes he would very humbly ask to borrow some books, you know. I'm pleased to lend to anybody. They just have to enter it in my notebook.
What was he interested in?
Some of the books here are technical manuals, but what I collect mostly is literature on archaeology. A passion of mine, you know. And there's more, like popular science. I love it.
Do you remember what books Balazs has taken?
Oh, no need to remember. It's in the notebook.
Mr. Brown, what do you think of Balazs?
Just call me Ernu, will you? And I'll call you Jonathan, if you don't mind.
Not at all, Ernu. So, could you describe the boy for me?
A wonderful child, very smart. Some people call him Brainiac Boy, and he's so cheerful, has a desire for knowledge. He'll achieve great things, like his parents.
Did you see him often?
Not really. Sometimes he came to the lab, not only for books. He asked me lots of questions about our work, but otherwise we rarely came across each other, just waved at each other in the courtyard.
What do you think of Vero?
Oh, she's a lovely but sharp-tongued young lady. Don't you think so, Jonathan? Quick-witted and talks as quickly. Occasionally she might say things that sound a bit offensive, but she doesn't mean it. Her intentions are noble. Do you know if she's married?
No, she isn't.
For the time being, I assume.
You have an incredible collection of books.
Great, isn't it? I live in a tiny apartment where there's no room for my library. but Mr. Lautsky very kindly allowed me to keep them here. I'm so grateful to him.
This machine is really impressive. Looks like an electronic forest.
Do you want me to explain how it works? Listen. Have you heard of plasma, the fourth fundamental state of matter?
Oh, yes, I think so. Aren't the sun and the stars made of plasma?
Absolutely. Plasma is a state of material when it's no longer composed of atoms or molecules, but of the parts of the atoms, electrons and ions. We create plasma with this instrument here, working with strong magnets and microwaves.
In other words, this apparatus is some kind of microwave oven. Can you heat something with it?
Yes, and by heating, we can convert almost any material to plasma state. We usually work with noble gases and study the plasma with a wide range of instruments. The plasmas are really beautiful. Our equipment owns 6 magnets. Therefore, the plasmas we create look like gorgeous 6-branched stars.
Great. I think I already know more about your forest. Thanks, Ernu.
My pleasure. I hope I didn't bore you, Jonathan.
Morning. Are you the American?
You mean me? I'm Jonathan Hunt.
Joseph Vince. I'm the caretaker. And the night guard. In shifts, you know.
Glad to meet you. Mr. Vince, have you seen Balazs lately? You know, the younger brother of Vero who moved in here for a few weeks?
I have. I've seen him often here and there, but not today.
Understandable. He's disappeared.
What the hell you say? Was he kidnapped or what?
We don't know. This is why I ask if anyone has seen him these days.
Well, I did see him, but I can't say when. He'd been stuck on those turtles, you know. They're said to be immortal. Did you know that?
What do you mean, immortal?
There's a legend here that Professor Zalai gave them some panacea. Fancy that.
I guess they only mean that turtles have a long life. Is it you who takes care of them?
Yeah, but I got to, you know. I don't really like them, though, but they recognize me.
Dr. Peter Leotsky, director. He and Vero seem to be on good terms. Where am I? Is this a data center or a recording studio? Is this a Gibson? I'm not an expert. Is he a scientist too? I wonder. Hello, I'm Jonathan Hunt.
Hello. So you're the guy who's after Brainiac Boy, aren't you? I'm Changor Fekete.
Doctor, I assume.
Nope. I'm only a petty system administrator. Or, if you like, the doctor of the doctor's computer up there. What can I do for you?
You could tell me when you last saw Balazs, what he was doing, these kinds of things.
Snooping, that's what he was doing, I tell you. He knew everyone, talked to everyone, stuck his nose in everything. If you ask me, he'd been up to something.
Up to something?
In the last 2 weeks, he'd been in a hustle. We never had any trouble with each other, though, just some of us found this a bit strange.
Nobody has complained about him so far.
Sure. Any talking about him could easily get to the ears of the director. That's because of Vera. You know, there's been some rumor recently. Otherwise, she's a hot babe, but I don't have a thing about those who make a pass at the boss, if you know what I mean. I don't mind telling you if you want the truth.
I have first-hand information that the supposed liaison between the director and the girl is unfounded.
Well, don't bet on that.
What an amazing place.
This is my cave with the supercomputer. Not super-sized, but super fast. It's because many desktop computers are connected in a smart way. They generate a lot of heat. We need strong cooling. I enjoy this low temperature. Of course, the fans are loud, but I use my headsets.
And you just oversee things here?
Yeah, it's not too stressful unless we hit a snag. But that seldom happens, so it's rather a kind of vacation.
Rather a kind of making music, isn't it?
Spot on. This is why I like Lehetsky. I only asked once, and he'd let me bring in my music stuff. I've written some 50 songs here.
50 songs? That's enough for 2 albums.
You must be joking. Who buys CDs today? Chungor, the system administrator, earns the money. The musician can only spend it.
Without these gloomy-looking machines, I'd feel like I was in a preschool. A smiling face. He doesn't look devilish at all.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Hunt.
Hey, Jonathan. Nice to meet you. Gula Varesh. Saw you on television.
Did you?
So glad you came here. I mean, not really glad, as it's so sad Balaj has run away. How reckless!
Can I ask you some questions?
Well, of course, my friend. Go ahead.
When did you last see Balaj?
Wow, I feel being part of a crime movie. Well, I think it was Thursday or Friday. End of last week. No, it wasn't the weekend, as I'm with my family then. I've got 3 sons, my friend, and a daughter.
That's nice. So on Thursday or Friday, where and when?
I ran into him in the afternoon. I think he was coming from the cafeteria. And yes, that charming sister of his was with him. They weren't in a good mood, though.
What is he like, this Balaj?
Haven't you met? Oh, handsome guy, intelligent face, kind of dark hair, and...
We did. I want to know what you think about him.
He's a nice guy. Open-minded, friendly, polite, doesn't really understand jokes, though. You know, we joke a great deal with my kids, and...
Yes. Have you noticed any change in his behavior lately?
Whose behavior? Balaj. Maybe he came here less frequently. Carrying a book all the time. He was learning, maybe. Don't you think so?
What do you think about Vero?
Oh, you've got to be kidding. I have a wife and children.
That's not what I mean. What's your opinion about her as a person?
A frightfully agile, vigorous girl. Or from a professional point of view, you mean? Well, everyone has to be highly skilled to get a job in this institute.
I see. How does she get along with others?
I believe everyone likes her. She's a bit too quick and straightforward, but I don't mind. I can only say positive things, like the way she takes care of her younger brother. She'll make a good mother, at least if she learns a bit more about self-sacrifice.
You have a cozy workplace.
Oh, yes, thank you. Our director, Mr. Lahotsky, has been very liberal about this. For me, my family means everything. I gain energy from these things to focus on my work.
Do you have a hobby or a passion?
Passion? My family is my passion. With 4 children, you have little chance to have hobbies. You'll see it for yourself. Hurry up, my friend. Having children is the best thing in the world.
I will. Certainly. Could you tell me something about this lab?
Oh, sure thing. I've already explained it to my boys, and they understand everything. They were so cute listening to my story.
And the lab?
Oh, of course. Now, this is the Materials Science Laboratory. With all this gleaming equipment, we can identify the chemical composition of an object in a non-destructive way, or we can define what layers these chemical elements form in a sample, even if the layers are measured on a nanometer scale. However, for this, we have to destruct the sample a bit.
You mean you could tell how many and what kind of paint layers are there on a Da Vinci painting?
I'm afraid not, as my instrument works with small-size samples only.
Which means you'd need to damage the painting? Otherwise, you could investigate the composition, but not the layers. Is that right?
Exactly!
What a contrast. A state-of-the-art research station in a palm house? Does the lady belong to the equipment or to the jungle?
Good morning, madam. My name is Jonathan Hunt. I think Vero has...
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Hunt. Dr. Zoldmally. Emma to my parrots only.
I'd like to ask a few questions about Balaj.
Yes, I've heard. I must admit I don't understand the situation, but I'm glad to help if I can.
Madam, when did you last see Balaj?
Let me think. Last week, maybe on Wednesday? He helped me relocate the pandanus. It's hazardous.
Ah, is it a corrosive compound?
No, it's the screw palm. The leaves can cut your hand.
What do you think of Balaj?
He's very young, tends to overdo things, but he absorbs information like a sea sponge.
Did you see a lot of him?
I think he didn't like me at first, or my parrots, but he was excited about age determination, so we became friends soon.
So he was eager about the past?
Especially about radiocarbon dating, which we do here. Nature tells us about the past, or even about artifacts of unknown origin.
Well, I'm personally interested in this too.
As you should be. I know you wrote a book on antique trade. I'm going to read it.
Oh, that's kind. What do you think of Vero?
Vera? She's a typical woman of our age. I wouldn't recommend her to you as a wife.
Well, it hasn't come to my mind.
Very well. In brief, as a person, she apparently performs better than as a professional. But she hasn't been here for long, so there's not much I can help you with.
On the contrary, you've helped a lot. Given my original profession, I have some understanding about radiocarbon dating, but I'd be grateful if you could explain how it works exactly.
I'll try to keep it simple. In nature, carbon mostly exists as carbon-12, but there's also carbon-14, a carbon isotope which is constantly created in the upper stratosphere as a result of cosmic rays. It builds in living organisms, like plants and animals. But carbon-14 atoms are radioactive, and as such, they decay over time. Their half-life is about 6,000 years. This means the quantity of these atoms falls by half in every 6,000 years. When a living being dies, it stops acquiring carbon-14, but the decay continues, and the proportion of carbon-14 decreases. If we measure this proportion accurately in case of an archaeological find, we can tell its age.
And are there no limits? Can you determine the age of any object?
Not quite. We can go back up to about 40,000 years. Our results are most accurate when the object is a few thousand years old. And don't forget, we are talking about things that once used to be living organisms.
I see. So, no dinosaurs. They lived millions of years ago.
Correct. Your knowledge is still a bit superficial, Mr. Hunt. But you're improving.
This lab is so pleasant. Are all these plants and animals part of your research?
My plants and animals keep me alive in this well-equipped, state-of-the-art lab. My motto is back to nature.
Are you a naturist?
By no means. No need to go back to the tree to make your environment more livable. I no longer dive, but still love hiking and sailing with friends.
Extraordinary place, like in a Cold War spy movie. Even a pocket calculator is anachronistic in this environment. A frail figure and a nice face. She's far from the physicist stereotype.
Good morning, madam. My name is Hunt.
Jonathan Hunt? My name is Dr. Tomoro Shafran, but please call me Tomoro. Just not Tommy, okay?
With pleasure.
I knew you were coming here. Saw you arriving. Vero has good taste.
What? Oh no, I just came about a water sample.
I know. And now it's about Volage. Please, feel free to ask me anything.
I'd like to know when you last met Vero's brother.
On Sunday.
Yesterday? Where?
We didn't actually meet. I just saw him downtown. I guess he didn't notice me.
When was this?
Late afternoon. But he didn't disappear yesterday, did he?
No, not yesterday. What do you think of Volage?
Well, I think he's not the type who just runs off suddenly. It must be some joke, I guess. Vero gets you to do the job, then he'll turn up and laugh at the hassle.
I admit it has occurred to me too.
Well, Volage is a bit strange. Yet, I tend to say I like him. Better than most of the guys of his age.
Did you see him often?
Not really. Sometimes he comes to ask questions.
What kind of questions? About the Vander or Vander?
The Van de Graaff accelerator? No. He usually asks me about language problems.
Asks you about language problems?
Because I speak many languages. That is, I can understand many languages, but hardly speak any of them.
Wow, that's interesting. How come you know so many languages?
When I was a child, my only entertainment was reading books and learning. I was fascinated by the variety of languages. I wanted to understand all the books my parents had. Even today, this is a passion of mine.
What a story. And how many languages are you familiar with?
Well, I can read and write in about 15 to 20 languages. Many of the Western languages, and some dead languages too, like Latin or ancient Greek. Then some Hindi, Mandarin, Hebrew, Arabic, Swahili, Japanese, and Korean. But I learned them merely from books.
Amazing.
Currently, I'm trying to improve my Russian, which I didn't learn in school, unlike many people here.
Incredible. You must be a living dictionary. What do you think about Vero?
She's cool. Men notice her. And she's smart. Born in a family where life is about natural science.
Do you two speak often?
Yes, every day. We usually have coffee together, gossip a bit, but nothing too serious, of course.
I can imagine. I know nothing about the place you call the microprobe. What do you do here?
In fact, we work with two instruments connected to each other. What you can see here is the Van de Graaff particle accelerator, which speeds up particles, such as protons. Then these particle beams are directed onto the target we want to examine. The particles in the beam and those of the target collide, and some of them scatter. We can detect these particles and capture data, which helps determine the composition of the target object.
And the other one?
The second instrument is the microprobe. It can focus the proton beam to a tiny area. This allows us to examine the composition of the target object on micrometer scale.
This means if you put an object in there, you can scan it, just like an X-ray.
Not exactly. It only lets you capture information about the surface, or just below the surface. But it is a perfect method for studying the composition of archaeological findings, for example.
This control room is rather a strange place.
You mean not as frilly as the other labs? I think it suits my personality.
It does, doesn't it?
Oh, you think this craziness is all about decoration? It isn't, I tell you. Come back if you feel bored, or if you need a translator.
Thank you. I will.
Wow. I wouldn't be surprised to meet Captain Spock here. An ageless guy. Or do his glasses make this impression?
Hi, I'm looking for Dr. Imre Biberosh.
Jonathan Hunt? Hi. Welcome aboard.
I'd like to ask a few questions. I guess you know what happened.
I know. And my processors don't comprehend. Balash is not like that, but go ahead, ask away.
Have you seen Balazs lately?
No, not for some time. I'm glad he returned my DVDs before the Star Trek feature films. Not that I don't have more copies of them in a box set.
Did he watch them?
No. Actually, it was me who insisted on it. But wait a minute.
What's the matter?
Actually, I saw the guy on Friday through the window, chatting with a mysterious old man.
Mysterious?
At least I've never seen him before. He had a hat on, so I couldn't see his face.
An old man with a hat on Friday.
Balash seems to know the fellow. Must have been over 70, and he talks somehow secretively. I didn't hear a word, though.
Thanks for telling me this. Do you know Balazs Gal well?
Not too well. At the beginning, early summer, he was rather clumsy. Then his girlfriend came along. They kept asking lots of questions, sometimes too many. She left a month ago.
Didn't he ask unusual questions?
He did. He'd been interested in the achievements of 18th, 19th century Hungarian physics.
Strange, asking you about this. I've thought you're a man of the space age.
Oh, maybe you don't know. I graduated as a historian, specialized in the modern era. But later I switched to nuclear physics, and now I control the cyclotron spaceship in the Atomki Galaxy.
Extraordinary. So, what strange question did he ask?
I told him about great people like Istvan Hatvani, who was a doctor, teacher, priest, and physicist. A polyhistor, as we call it. He was a resident here at the Debrecen. I suggested Balash to look it up in the library of the Reformed College.
Most interesting. Thanks for the info. I guess you have some impression of Vero.
Well, yes. I was crazy about her.
Really? Does she know?
No, and please don't tell her or I set the Klingons on you. By the time I figured out how to approach her, my feelings were gone.
Gone.
But still, that girl is very special to me.
Can you tell me about this cyclotron?
With pleasure. No military secrets, of course.
Military secrets?
One never knows. But I like the look of you. You seem very trustworthy. The cyclotron is a particle accelerator instrument. This here is the control system. We accelerate the particles and they gain energy by this. The particles must be charged positive ions. They're created from hydrogen or helium in the cyclotron's ion source. We separate the electrons from the nucleus. What remains is in fact a proton, which can be used for acceleration. Do you follow?
I'm still a bit confused about the acceleration.
Okay. Imagine a round metal cookie can. Suppose you cut it in halves and pull them aside a bit, leaving a narrow gap between the two D-shaped parts. Think about it as a model. Now, when the proton passes through the gap, its speed increases. Inside the can, the path of the particle bends and continues in circles of increasing radius, eventually moving on a spiral path from the inside outwards. Then it is directed into the target object, and bang!
Can you see or hear it?
No, and of course you cannot enter while the engines are running.
And what's that Stargate over there? Is that a bunny to be teleported?
Are you kidding? That's a very smart detector. The positron emission tomography, the PET, its nickname is PET, P-E-T. We use it to examine small pets after treating them with a bit of radioactive sugar.
I'm overwhelmed.
I'd love to show it to you in action. You should see the nuclear jet start.
Although you're a historian, this place is packed with high-tech equipment.
Well, somehow my devotion for history faded over time. Instead, I began to develop an interest for the present and the future. After a few years, I took a new course in natural sciences. In short, this is how I landed on board of this spaceship here as Dr. Biberosh.
No. I don't even try to explain that sticker.
You haven't taken advantage of Mr. Leotsky's permission to decorate your workplace.
No, I haven't. I only had this blue mood lighting installed. It's so celestial, if you know what I mean.
Can you tell me about the radiochemistry lab?
Well, I don't have much time, but if you want a short brief, we are chemists who work with radioactive material. You can see the sign on that door, warning about radiation hazard. Let's say a material is irradiated by the cyclotron, some oxygen, for example. The oxygen is transmuted to radioactive fluorine. Then the radiochemist attaches this fluorine to a sugar molecule. This is needed for the PET diagnostics, a nuclear medical imaging technology to detect this radioactive sugar in the body. But from this point, it's not my business. So to put it simply, we work with radioactive material here. This is why we need special protective measures. But if you have a test tube of non-radioactive material, of course we could investigate that too in our standard lab.
I see. At least I think I do. Thank you, Mr. Kekishi.
Hi, it's me, Vera.
Hi. I know. I've just finished with the labs. Nothing too helpful.
There's still a chance. I spoke to Peter, you know, the director. He's waiting.
For what?
For you. He wants to meet you.
Well, why not? Should I question him too?
Maybe you can get something useful out of him.
Shall we go right now?
You go alone. I've already told him a lot about you.
Aren't you going to introduce me? Anyway, let's do it this way. I guess I'll find his office.
It's in the main building, first floor on the right.
Thanks.
One more thing. Now I remember what Bollard said that afternoon. He said this: I'm going to meet that teacher woman I talked to yesterday. And then he said he was going to the Reformed College. What do you think?
Could be a lead.
Except we don't know who she is.
But we do. Listen, you said he talked with a middle-aged woman. That could be her.
You may be right. But still, I haven't got the slightest idea who she was.
That may be so, but someone was there at the party who might know. I'm just going to visit him. Bye for now.
Bye.
Here's the deck of the Otomki ship. I wonder what the captain's like. Sometimes even the director, Mr. Peter Lehotsky, puts on a lab coat. Pictures from the history of Otomki. The all-seeing eye of Professor Shandor Soloy. Beautiful weather. We are having a nice summer this year. A holographic trinket with particles. Lovely. An old-fashioned cell phone. The director doesn't seem a geek. The Institute's deed of foundation.
Good morning. Jonathan Hunt.
Ah, Mr. Hunt. Peter Liotsky. How do you do?
How do you do? It was beyond my hopes to be able to see a nuclear research institute on the inside. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. In this case, just call me Peter. I'm the older, if you don't mind.
I'm honored. Nice to meet you, Peter.
Take a seat, please.
Immaculate three-piece business suit, but no necktie. Interesting.
Is it true your mother tongue is Hungarian?
Basically, yes. My mother was Hungarian, and she spoke to me in her language. My father was American, but he died early, so I learned to speak English from my grandfather. He was the son of a famous globetrotter and explorer, Samuel Hunt.
What an exciting ancestry. A mixture of cultures. Vera told me you wished to settle down in the country, and this is why you wanted to see her.
Yes, I'm considering buying land in Eger.
I know. And I've been informed about the result of the water analysis. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your sample is far from mineral water quality.
Thank you. No need to be sorry. I had no intention of going into the mineral water business. It's even better, as the owner should lower the price now.
I see. Glad to hear this.
You might have heard that Bolage disappeared.
Oh, yes. Vera, the poor little one, has just come to me crying. I was going to mobilize my contacts immediately. I have a fairly wide network of connections, you know. But she told me she'd already asked you to be on the case.
Oh, well, no problem. I'd be pleased to free Vera of her commitment. Probably connections could work better in this case than a do-it-yourself detective, such as an investigative journalist from the New York Times.
You work for the New York Times? Why, there's no reason to back out of the arrangement. Vera told me you're very efficient. Please go ahead. I hereby approve the assignment. You are free to go anywhere on Otomki's premises and ask questions to anyone. Just keep it short, please. You understand.
Not quite, but there should be no complaints. Thank you for the opportunity. And once you've allowed me, would you please answer a few questions yourself?
But of course. At your service.
You know Balaj, I assume. What do you think of him?
Well, I think the boy doesn't respect his sister the way he should. Yet she's done everything for him while their parents are absent. I believe he's hiding because of feeling guilty of ungratefulness. What do you think?
I think there's no question about your scientific and management achievements, but your approach lacks some empathy.
You think so?
Yes, but this is not a problem in your position. And of course, I didn't mean to be offensive.
No, I understand what you say. And coming back to this investigation of ours, I did see Borlage Sunday afternoon.
Oh my. And where was this?
It was about 5:20 when we passed by each other downtown. He was just coming from the college.
Did you speak?
I said hello, but he didn't seem to take notice. Looked quite preoccupied and just walked on.
In that case, I should extend the investigation to places outside Otomki as well. Peter, a colleague of yours saw Borlage on Friday in Otomki talking to an old man in the courtyard. It was near the pond where the turtles live. The man was wearing a hat and he had a walking stick. Do you have an idea who he might be?
I think so. The description fits old Karol Voniec, our retired caretaker. He was the jack-of-all-trades at the time of Shandor Soloi. He comes here now and then, eats in the cafeteria, sits in the garden, chats with people.
So he might have told Borlage a few old stories?
He might have, yes. The old chap is absolutely harmless, but I can give you his address. Talk to him.
Yes, please. I'll call on him.
Here you are. It's not far from Otomki.
I'll find it. Thank you. Vero mentioned something that could be important.
How interesting. I wonder why she hasn't told me.
At that party on Saturday, Borlage was seen chatting with a middle-aged lady, likely to be a teacher. She stayed late too. Do you remember who she was?
I only saw that Vera had to warn him about his behavior several times. But I hardly remember who he talked to.
Let's try this way. Was there a woman at the party who happens to be a teacher?
Well, this might be easier. Mind you, it isn't a common thing nowadays to invite white-collar people of lower position. Ah, but I've got it. It must have been Mrs. Pulfy, the widow of the late Professor Geza Pulfy. Her husband was a highly respected scholar, of the old-fashioned type. Headed a university department, very reputable person, although never strived for positions.
Yes, there are people like this.
His widow is a teacher indeed. Out of respect for Geza, his former friends and colleagues keep in touch with her. They say she's not too well off, but too shy to ask for help.
Does she teach in the Reformed College?
No. As far as I know, she teaches history in a grammar school.
Then what was she doing at the college on Sunday, where she met Borlage?
Then what did the lady do in the college on Sunday where Borlage met her, if it was her at all?
I've seen a few of your labs, and I have to admit, I'm amazed. All of them are furnished with a personal touch. I've heard this was your innovation. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It's a long story, you know. A foreign delegation visited us one day, and their wives came with them. After the official program, we had an informal dinner where some of our researchers were also present.
I guess you chose them carefully.
Naturally. They told good stories. Everyone had an excellent time. The wives were especially delighted because they thought about these guys as some machine parts in lab coats. And suddenly, I realized we'd been hiding something that ought to be shown. So the next day I told my staff that I'd allow everyone to do their work in a home-like environment, as long as the job is done. Strictly subject to individual approval, of course.
This was received well, I guess.
No, they thought me crazy. It took some time for them to understand, but now the results speak for themselves.
I say hats off. A brave and enlightened solution.
Development of electronic circuits between 1955 and 1970. Curious structures. The Little Museum of Nuclear Research. We'd better find that boy before his parents return.